we realize and start to face the horrible truth that everything we've been told is a lie. Every facet of our reality has been affected, manipulated, infiltrated, and poisoned with half-truths. It's not always completely a lie, but the best way to tell a lie is you keep a little bit of the truth and then you're surrounded by a lot of falsifications. This is something that's been going on not just the last few decades, but our governments and our corporations and the banks and those that pretty much run the world. It's been going on for centuries and it's been going on for millennia. The lies and the deceptions have been going on for thousands and thousands of years, not just the last few decades, because now suddenly we've woken up and we realize we're being lied to, so we think, oh, it must have just happened recently. No, it's been going on for bloody ever. That's the problem. The bigger the lie, the more inclined we're to believe it. And I want to show you an example that basically shows me that if they could lie about this, they can lie about everything. If they could pull this one off, they can pull off anything. And this is to do with the Bible. This is Micheal Ledwith, my good friend that lives up in Rainier, Washington. He was the advisor to the popes at the Vatican for 17 years. He is a walking encyclopedia. He's one of the most incredible human beings you can ever meet. You can discuss anything with him and he'll launch into a deep level of comprehension of any subject: historical, Hebrew texts, cuneiform texts, Sumerians, ancient scriptures from the east, from the west, from everywhere. He knows bloody everything, this guy. What he found out is that the opening phrase of the Bible was messed with. Completely messed with. We all believe and we read the opening text of the Bible that says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Well, he found out when he was still a student, I believe, that the original Hebrew text was messed with. And to do that is very difficult, because you should know by now that the Hebrew text and the scholars that write that, it's all a mathematical formula. So it's very difficult to cheat. It has to have so many letters across and phrases, and they cross-reference it, so you can figure out very quickly if somebody messed with one of these phrases and these paragraphs. And yet they pulled this off. This is what boggles my mind. How could they have pulled this off, to lie about it? And he shows that the original Hebrew text begins with the letter B, Beth. At the moment, the Bible starts that says, Barashit bara Elohim et hashamayim wa et ha'aretz. Ba, it starts with Ba. The second letter of the alphabet. It's not possible, because all Hebrew sacred texts must begin with the first letter of the alphabet, which is A, or Aleph. So somebody messed that up. That's not possible. So at the moment, it doesn't make any grammatical sense, actually. It's a non-grammatical incorrect sentence, grammatically incorrect sentence. For any Hebrew-speaking people here, you'll know what I mean. And it refers to Elohim here as the gods, but it doesn't make any sense. So when he added A, or Aleph, suddenly it says, Abba Rashit bara Elohim et ha-shamayim wa et ha'aretz, which means the Father of the beginnings created the Elohim, the heavens and the earth. The Father of the beginnings created the Elohim, the heavens and the earth. And suddenly the Elohim no longer is God, or the plural of gods, as we perceive it from the incorrect first statement of the Bible. Now, if they could pull that off and lie to us about that, they can bloody pull off anything. There are three holy cows of our education system that I love to talk about. And these three holy cows that many people find untouchable are that we evolved out of apes. Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to another. Now, if you mention these in any kind of scientific debate with professors and very clever people from universities, they'll all sit and nod and argue, yes, absolutely, that's how it is. All bull, absolute lies. The theory of evolution remains a theory of evolution. There is no scientific evidence ever shown that we evolved out of apes. It's all bogus that was put into our history books to remove us from a creator or any kind of creation process or the possibility of being created by other ETs or any such activity. So the theory of evolution is all part of the long line of lies and misinformation and deception that goes back thousands of years. It's not something that started recently. Right? The fact that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light was shattered already in 2005, but many ways has been shattered already. Even when Paul Dirac won his Nobel Prize in 1933, actually part of the Nobel Prize, or his quantum theory that he won the prize for, shows that subatomic particles move faster than the speed of light. But that was never brought up while he was receiving his Nobel Prize. So all these, it's just like such nonsensical crap, and we all buy it because we believe these people at university are very clever. So at 2005, at the Middle Tennessee State University, 2 undergraduates and 3 high school students, I believe, propelled sound faster than the speed of light. And this was very quickly written up in the American Institute of Physics in 2007 and then hidden from sight. And again, this is what they do all the time. They publish it so they can use it as a trump card later. Oh, well, we knew about this all along. Look, we published it in 2005 or 2007. And they hide it because they don't want people to know that you can propel sound faster than the speed of light. Of course you can. Why? Because sound is the source of all things. Sound is the creative source of everything, including light. We cannot create or destroy energy. Energy can just be converted from one to another. And then the next breath, they tell us that we all come from the Big Bang. There was nothing, and then suddenly everything is here. So hold on, so I thought you can't create energy. So what happened here? Oh, no, but the energy was already there. It was just in a very, very, very tiny infinitesimal point called the singularity. So it was always there. That's how they get away with the that you can't create or destroy energy. I believe that this is all part of the agenda to keep us dumbed down and manipulated. If you look at the photographs from NASA, if you can believe them, of these spectacular pictures of nebulae and these nebulae, the Horse Nebulae and the Eagle Nebulae and all this nebulae and the Eye Nebulae and all this, and they tell us that there are trillions of stars being born every second. Okay, wow. But I thought we can't create energy. So surely it takes energy for stars to be born. Where's that energy coming from? Where's it from the vacuum? Oh, but space is a vacuum, so in a vacuum nothing can exist. So that busts EMC square, right? So energy is equal mass times speed of light square. Energy, mass, in a vacuum there's no mass. So if the mass of vacuum is 0, it means 0 times the speed of light is 0. That means there's 0 energy in space. So how can anything be created? What's going on here? They're just lying to us every step of the way. We're being fooled and lied to. Another great secret that they've been keeping from us is that water seems to be everywhere in the universe. So again, NASA hides these things because in was it 2009, I think, when they published this, that they found sprawling clouds of cold water vapor around a burgeoning solar system nearby called Hydra. Hydra. Yeah. The water vapor could eventually deliver oceans to the dry planets that are forming in that solar system. So they're just telling us that there's actually water out there, but they've actually been telling us that there's water all around our whole solar system, isn't it? Our entire solar system is surrounded by water in the form of ice. Firstly, we have the Kuiper Belt, and then that is within another big cloud of water or ice called the Oort cloud. So you get the Kuiper Belt, and then the Kuiper Belt and the entire solar system sits in the Oort cloud that surrounds the entire solar system. So they tell us that this solar system called Hydra is surrounded by water, and then actually our entire solar system is surrounded by water, and it looks probably something like this. The entire thing is possibly made up of water. And suddenly, I have a very different take on the opening statement of the Bible. The Spirit of God moved over the waters.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light.
I could never understand that. What does that mean? How come there's water? Nothing has been created. He hasn't even said, "Let there be light," and yet there's already water. So suddenly Scripture takes on a very different kind of meaning to me. And is it possible that all of space or that water is the stuff that holds the universe together? If the Spirit of God moved across the waters. So what is it that we look at when you look up at the night sky? But through all the lies and deceptions, there is one common denominator that remains the source of all things. And this is where it gets really exciting. Sound and resonance. the common links of creation. Modern science tells us that we live in an electromagnetic universe. Everything spins and vibrates. I'd like to correct that. I'd like to say that it's not an electromagnetic universe, it's a magneto-electric universe. There's a very big difference between the two. And again, it's a small little subtlety, but it's a very important subtlety, because magnetism is a thing that rules the universe, not electricity. Sound, magneticism, electricity. And you'll see how this chain reaction causes everything that we observe when we look up at the night sky or the nature around us. Everything in creation spins and vibrates. Everything has its own prime resonance frequency. Everything. And this is why once we can identify a prime resonance frequency of a bacterium or an atom or whatever it is, or a soccer field, we can then manipulate that object with its prime resonance frequency. In Christianity, it's the word. In Hinduism, it's Om. The Egyptians believed the universe was sung into creation, and the original people of Australia, not the aboriginal, I forgot to take the ab out. They're not abnormal. The original people of Australia. It's a twist on words there, remember? Keep that in mind. So it's the original people of Australia believed that the world was created with 3 sacred songs. And then we have the phenomenal similarities between the 6 days of creation in Christianity and the word that created everything, the 6 aspects of Om, and the 6 aspects of the all-seeing eye of Horus. And you start seeing the connections between all these ancient cultures and the creation stories. And then the creation stories get even more interesting when you read the Hindu creation story. It says, everything was so peaceful and silent that Vishnu slept undisturbed by dreams or motion. From the depths, a humming sound began to tremble. It grew and spread, filling the emptiness and throbbing with energy. The night had ended. Vishnu awoke. That's just a little more dramatic version of saying God said, let there be light. Sound is a source of all creation. Sound and resonance is responsible for everything. It is the breath of the Creator, the prime resonance frequency, and the source code for everything in creation, including our DNA. This is from Dan Winter's brilliant documentaries and work on the DNA and sound and resonance. I would recommend you check out Dan Winter's work on that as well. How cymatics and sound helps to form and shape our DNA and the structure of our DNA based on the cymatics. And that word cymatics, it comes from Hans Jenny in the 50s and 60s, the brilliant work that he did and showed us how sound and resonance is responsible for everything in creation. By now you should know that sound manifests physical form, and this is the most basic example. Every frequency has its own specific shape, a prime resonance frequency. Are you only looking at a 2-dimensional representation of a 3-dimensional effect? And this is just in the spectrum that we can hear. You can imagine in the low frequencies that we can't hear, it has the same effect. The higher the frequency, the more complex the shapes. The lower the frequency, the more basic and the larger the shapes. Okay, so the original people of Australia have a creation story that says time began when the supernatural beings awoke and broke through the surface of the earth. So imagine the surface of the earth being something like this, that metal plate being the surface of the earth, and the supernatural beings broke through the surface of the earth, and they created the surface of the earth with 3 sacred songs. This is from Hans Jenny's brilliant video, Cymatics. This is powder on a metal plate. It's not a liquid or a jelly, it's powder. You can see landscapes being formed here over extended periods of time. Mountains can form, valleys, volcanoes, all to do with the sound of the earth coming out of the earth. And some of these pictures, the images of this CymaScope images, tell us that it was these sounds, the images of the sound, that actually inspired religious symbols. That beautiful cross in a circle at the center of some of these cymatic photographs give us a very clear indication that the creators of the religious symbols knew exactly what they were talking about, that the source of creation is sound itself. And that takes us to what sound does. Sound pretty much does everything you can imagine because it's a source of creation. Ancient civilizations understood sound and frequency, and they used it for everything. They used it as a tool, and they also used it to control and manipulate humanity. This is nothing new. We know by now that the pineal gland is pretty much what represents the all-seeing eye of Horus. It's a receiver, it's a transmitter, it's a powerful tool that we should be using, but we're not, because it was manipulated with and probably compromised. And it seems that these ancient beings, these either bird-headed beings or winged beings, used these cone-shaped tools and other techniques to manipulate our pineal gland and manipulate our DNA. They controlled us, the tree of life or the DNA, and they probably used sound and frequency to do that with. But what's important is to look at, so we got a pine cone, a cone-shaped tool in his hand, and that weird wristwatch that has got these 12 cone shapes pointing at the center. And then also this here. This here looks just like the stone tools that I've been picking up, a cone-shaped tool on his arm. Seems like everything is encoded here when they draw these or carve these things. It's not just accidental. Everything has got a reason why it's there. So you'll realize why that is so important, because this wristwatch with those 12 cones pointing at the middle shows us that they weren't only controlling our thoughts and our minds with sound and frequency and magnetics in ancient times, but we've been doing it for ages now. There's your all-seeing eye of Horus. There's your half of that weird wristwatch with the 6 cones facing the middle, all controlling us with sound and frequency. And this brings us to using sound as a tool in technology. Sound creates light. It's very obvious. We know that God said, let there be light, and you can do this yourself by attaching a speaker to an LED light and see what happens. The medicine wheel is a cross in a circle that represents sound, that primordial source of sound, that shows that the Native American healers knew that sound could cure and could heal. This is a Sumerian seal that represents sound, and also this is where the swastika has its origin, in sound and resonance. Royal Raymond Rife, you should know by now, that cured with the man that found the cure for all disease with sound and resonance. They were converted to electric impulses. And in a library in Sedona is his handwritten manuscript that you can read all his handwritten frequencies that he wrote down for cures for all the disease. This all the different cancers. This is for diphtheria. This is for tuberculosis. Lakovsky, the multiple wave oscillator, that has got an incredible record of curing all kinds of diseases, including cancers. And more recently, Anthony Holland, who in a TED talk in 2011 shows how he cures cancer with sound frequencies. And since then, we've not heard anything of him. He's sort of disappeared.
These are the first videos taken. We showed these videos to our friends in the biology department. They said they hadn't seen anything quite like it. Seems to be a new phenomenon. These organisms are being shattered by our electronic signals. This is a harmless organism, almost friendly, a little Blepharisma. And normally they're very fast swimmers, but when you approach a frequency to which they are vulnerable, they begin to slow down, then they stop, and then they begin to disintegrate within about 3 minutes. So first we attack pancreatic cancer. Take a good look at this slide, because the next one will look quite different. After we treat these cells, they change their shape and size, and they begin to grow long, rope-like structures out the sides. They look something like antennas. I call them bioantennas for biological antennas. It's as if the cancer cells are trying to tune in to our signal. We now know that cancer is vulnerable between the frequencies of 100,000 hertz and 300,000 hertz. So now we attack leukemia cells. Leukemia cell number 1 tries to grow a copy of itself, but the new cell is shattered into dozens of fragments and scattered across the slide. Leukemia cell number 2 then hyperinflates and also dies. Leukemia cell number 3 then tries to make another cancer cell. The new cell is shattered and the original cell dies.
I think you get the gist of it. Sound continues to amaze us. Sound can levitate. By now, you would have seen this many times. Just a very quick idea that sound actually does levitate things. But this is not how the ancients used to levitate the very big, heavy objects. This is a very different technique used here. This is just pressure waves that can levitate things, very light objects. But it does give you the ability to imagine that sound actually levitates. John Keely levitated stuff and drilled sound holes with sound in 1888 already. Peter Davey boiled water with sound since 1940, and he died several years ago.
It looks like a desk lamp is cool to the touch and appears to be doing nothing until it comes into contact with water. Peter Davey claims his invention uses the power of sound to boil water. He says the idea came to him 50 years ago when he noticed different saxophone notes caused different household items to rattle.
Magnetrons are really just very, very, it's called a resonant cavity magnetron that is created through resonance, sound resonance. It creates huge amounts of energy that's used in laser beams, used in microwaves, laser beams, etc. Sound acts as a cloak of invisibility. Sound can make things disappear. This 3D sort of plastic pyramid they created, when they expose it to certain sound frequencies, anything they put underneath it disappears, becomes invisible. And sound creates hurricanes. 2 guys in 2003 that lodged a patent to create hurricanes out of sound, believe it or not. And I believe they were granted their patent to create hurricanes. And maybe this is how they create the weather for us, without us even realizing it. And this is a fantastic one. These kids from college here in the USA that created a sound fire extinguisher. And this is years ago. You would have thought by now the fire brigades would be using it everywhere.
We're both graduating from the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department at George Mason University this coming May. We're here, we're just going to test out our device that we use that uses sound frequencies to extinguish flames.
I see this device being applied to a lot of things. First off, I think in the kitchen, it could be on top of a stovetop. But eventually, I'd like to see this applied to maybe swarm robotics, where it'd be attached to a drone, and that would be applied to forest fires or even building fires where you wouldn't want to sacrifice human life.
Professor Brian Mark really stepped in to help us.
Just gave us a lot of support.
I think as a whole, engineering is really just finding solutions finding simple solutions to complicated problems.
Sound creates volcanoes. Imagine, the earth is ringing like a bell all the time. So these frequencies keep coming out of the earth all the time. What do you think creates the volcanoes? What creates the heat underground that creates the volcanoes? Luc Montagnier, 2011, spontaneously generated DNA in water with sound frequencies. If you go on YouTube, you can watch one of these latest documentaries where he creates a virus with a sound frequency from Paris to Rome by sending a sound frequency of a virus across a telephone line, and they reconstitute the virus that he has in the lab in Paris. They reconstitute the same virus in the lab in Rome. This is just spectacular stuff.
It's very hard to admit for a certain number of our colleagues, including Nobel laureates, who strongly refute these ideas. But these are facts. This is an established scientific fact.
So now you can see how we can manifest things. We become creators and can manifest anything with sound. And this is why we now know that sound is the ultimate source of free energy. And Nikola Tesla knew this. He knew that the earth rings like a bell, and he used the sound of the earth because it constantly rings. It never stops. He used it as a source of energy to create his free energy device. And this is where we realize that sound and magnetism is inextricably connected. It's sound that creates magnetic fields.
Electric power is everywhere present in unlimited quantities. I can drive the world's machinery without the need of coal, oil, gas, or any other fuel. This new power for the driving of the world's machinery will be derived from the energy which operates the universe, the cosmic energy.
And moving magnetic fields create electricity. It's in that order that creation seems to happen. So we don't live in an electromagnetic universe, we live in a magneto-electric universe. So magnets give off sound. We all know what speakers are. So there you go, you got electricity, it comes out of a plug, it runs down a wire, it goes into a speaker, a magnet, the magnet reacts, and the magnet makes the air move and creates sound. And the reverse is possible as well. It works one way and it works the other way. And this is where we start getting into the real understanding of some of the masters. And no matter how I look at it, how much research I do, I keep coming back to one guy that stands head and shoulders above all other researchers and inventors of, I don't know, for how many centuries. And that guy's name is Nikola Tesla. By now, if you don't know him yet, I suggest you go and do some research into this guy's work. He says, if you want to find out the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That's exactly what I've been sharing with you here. Here is a picture of an electron. There's a picture taken about a decade ago. They tell us that this is a light beam or electron riding a light beam. Can you see a particle anywhere in this picture? No, there's no particle. They're resonant waves, and yet they tell us it's an electron. Can you see how we get brainwashed? So this is what Nikola Tesla has to say about the electron from an interview in 1928. On the whole subject of matter, in fact, Dr. Tesla holds the view that are startlingly original. He disagrees with the concept of atomic theory of matter and does not believe in the existence of an electron as pictured by science. This is a shock to the system. And you start seeing an agenda being developed here, an agenda being developed by mainstream universities, the mainstream scientific fraternity, under the guidance of those that are trying to lie to us and make us believe things that are not so. This is what Einstein has to say about the electrons. In the theoretical treatment of these electrons, we are faced with the difficulty that electrodynamic theory itself is unable to give an account of their nature. For since electrical masses constituting the electron would necessarily be scattered under the influence of their mutual repulsion unless there are forces of another kind operating between them, the nature of which has hitherto remained obscure to us. So he says, he doesn't quite understand how electrons come into being. And Ed Leeds-Kalnin, there's another guy that we should pay attention to. Ed Leeds-Kalnin is the guy that built Coral Castle in southern Florida. And he built Coral Castle with cone-shaped tools, with no ropes and pulleys. Big giant stones that weigh up to 30 tons on his own. And he tells us that millions of people all over the world are being fooled by the non-existing electron. And he has a lot more to say about this. And you start seeing that scientists and inventors and researchers over the last 200 years have been vehemently opposed to this whole concept of an electron and the atomic structure that has been forced down our throats and through all our educational institutions, that we just take for granted and we accept because we believe the guys that teach us this to be smart and they're not lying to us. We just accept the stuff. The torus electron model, this is what an electron actually looks like. It's just a resonance field. Much brilliant work has been done by many brilliant researchers and scientists. Electromagnetic models and formulas have been thrown together that are consistent with the toroidal shape of an electron. An electron is simply a coherent resonance in a toroidal field. That's all it is. It's not a particle. It is a resonance toroidal field, a resonating toroidal field. The same with the atomic structure. The atom is a toroidal field. It's not the atomic structure that we've been shown by science throughout our schooling careers. This is probably a lot closer to what an atom looks like. Here's a picture of a molecular torus of the carbon monoxide molecule. And you start seeing how the toroidal shapes appear everywhere. Everything is sound and magneticism, and this is really important. What most people don't know is, remember, sound, God said, let there be light. So it's sound, moving sound. Sound manifests as toroidal fields. Those moving toroidal fields create magnetic fields, which are toroidal fields as well. And moving magnetic fields create electricity. That's the sequence of events. But this tells us that because sound creates magnetic fields, it means everything must be magnetic in some sort. And in some sort of way. And if it's not, there's a very specific reason why it's not magnetic. So here's an example.
You might not think of water as being magnetic, but it is. And so are graphite, aluminum, and glass. And so is oxygen, which is attracted to magnets. Here, I have a few milliliters of liquid oxygen, which sticks to the magnet. I'll explain why later. Gadolinium oxide and cupric sulfate are good examples of paramagnetic substances. Cupric sulfate is a salt that can be picked up by a magnet.
It gives you an idea how the nature of reality around us is we just don't get taught this stuff, you know? We don't think about it in that sense. And how sound is actually the cause of all the stuff that we're witnessing here. So this sort of quantum locking is actually just a magnetic effect.
So what have we got here?
So we have quantum locking. The superconductor is locked in space, and it stays wherever I put it. You see, this is quantum trapping.
That's amazing.
As long as it's
so the it's superconducting. It's frozen with liquid nitrogen.
Upside down.
Right.
And it stays locked.
So the fact that it's superconducting is locking the magnetic field in 3 dimensions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you put it on the track for us?
Yeah. I just levitate it above the track quite high, and I can just rotate it.
So it's actually floating above the surface.
Yeah, it's not floating, it's locked above the surface.
So you could tilt it at an angle and it would fly around.
Like this, and it will just go around like this. Because I go and put it at a different height.
So magnetic fields do what? They do exactly what sound does. They create toroidal fields. If you do this, you immediately see the toroidal fields being created by magnets around them. Little toruses. And this is a full magnetic field, toroidal field spectrum. It's both positive and negative on both sides. There is no positive and negative in magnetic fields. This is where we've been incorrectly taught. It's actually just one field that work in opposite directions. It's centrifugal, centripetal forces that work against each other and oppose each other. And the complete toroidal field, like the toroidal magnetic field like this, has a both positive and a negative on both sides. So it both pushes and pulls from both sides. That's a complete magnetic toroid. It's not north on the one and south on the other. That's an incomplete magnetic field. This is very important information, people, and this connects us to some of the biggest lies we've been told about our reality and the world that we live in. It's the sound of the earth that creates a magnetic field, and not the molten iron core. There is no molten iron core in the center of the world. That's another theory that's been proposed, and most people believe it these days. It's a nonsensical idea. It's a sound of the earth that creates the magnetic fields around us. By now you should know that sound is the cause of everything, and especially magnetic fields. The problem with our world is that the Earth magnetic model is a half a magnetic model. It's north at the top and south at the bottom. That's not a complete magnetic field. And as far as I'm concerned, it's impossible for an Earth-like object to be in a complete magnetic field like the toroidal shape of our solar system and be an incomplete magnetic field itself. Can you see why I would say that? It doesn't make any sense. Our Earth is a half a magnetic field, an incomplete magnetic field, floating around in a complete magnetic field called our solar system. It would correct itself and over billions of years become a balanced toroidal magnetic field. How that would affect the shape of the Earth, I don't know. I'm going to let you figure that out. But this is what a complete and balanced toroidal magnetic field looks like. And what it does, it has an accretion disk in the middle. There you can see that yellow accretion disk. That's the center of the magnetic field. Whichever way you turn it, it's the same. As above, so below. we start to understand some of these basic fundamentals of creation, all coming from the breath of God, the breath of the Creator, the words that we utter. Everything that we say and create has the same effect, creating these complete, perfect magnetic fields. This is what the toroidal fields look like, or that are created by the sounds we make when we speak. And phenomenal research and work has been done to show us what the different toroidal shapes and fields look like of different letters and different sounds, especially vowels. And then as we speak, these toroidal fields that we manufacture and we create with our mouths, infinite forms, infinite shapes, infinite creativity that we manifest, actually become scalar waves and scalar technology that go into all of creation and permeate all of creation instantly. It doesn't take light years for the thoughts we have or the words we speak to permeate all of creation. It happens instantaneously because sound and resonance traverses all of creation instantly, not like light that takes time to travel through what we believe to be the cosmos. And here the toroidal shapes of color, incredible work shows us that how the different kind of structures and toroids that color actually creates and how it manifests in different and the various sacred geometrical patterns that we've become familiar with. Now you start to understand that every time you look at something that's carved out in a rock or a symbol or the caduceus, everything carries its frequency, and actually when you're looking at it, you're picking up the image and the sound is entering your subconscious through the fact that you're observing it and looking at it. So it has an effect on you. So when people say, oh, it's just a stupid symbol. No, it has a severe effect on you and your subconscious, but you're just not aware that it's affecting you because you're picking up the sound frequencies of that image. So if somebody shows you a finger, you're picking up the sign of that finger and the frequency of that image. That's an assault on you. It's not just a benign little gesture. It's a serious assault on you. So keep in mind, not only your thoughts are powerful tools, but the images and the words you write are powerful tools. The words that we write. This is why the original letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the 22 letters, are very specific shapes and size and forms. Each letter is actually a two-dimensional representation of the three-dimensional sound of that letter. That's been reduced to 2D. Now you get a better understanding of how that is possible. So the tools that have been given to us of thought, of language, of vocabulary, of letters, of the alphabet are powerful tools. And this is why wizards and witches could cast spells with their spelling, right? Cast spells. And we do spelling at school. So we're actually learning to cast spells without realizing what we're doing. And this stuff is just so brilliant. When you start breaking this knowledge and this information down, you get into the deeper understanding of the power that we have, the incredible, powerful beings that we are, because we are one with God. We are one with the Creator. We come from the same creative source. And we are all imbued with all that knowledge and information runs in our DNA.